Now let's have a look at how you can change the roof of your tiny house in the 3D Tiny House Designer. To get started, you will find the roof settings up here in the exterior library bar again. I'll just click on that here and you will see the roof settings pop up here on the right. The first thing that you will see is the section count, and what you will see at this design here at the moment, we just have one roof. So one long roof that covers the entire design. You can actually break apart the roof into multiple sections, so if you want to have different styles for different parts of your roof, that's how you would be able to do that. So at the moment we have one, and if we change it to two, you can see that we now have a different style in the back here, and we can define each of these styles, and I'll get back into that in a second. So I'll just quickly delete the skylights here for good measure so we can just start working on the roof here. And I will just go in and look at my roof here again, and in the front you will have the first roof section. So the way that the roof sections work, it works itself from the front to the back. So roof section 1 will be in the front, roof section 2 will be in the back. If you have 3 or 4 roof sections, it will go on consecutively further to the back. To keep things simple, I'm just going to keep it to one roof section for now, so I can show you how the settings for a roof section work. So the first thing that you will see is the length of the roof section. Of course, this doesn't really matter if we only have one roof section because it just spans the entire roof. And then we have the roof style. There are 3 kind of styles that you can choose from. You have the gable style roof, meaning it has 2 angled parts to it. Then you have a shed roof or a monoslope roof like this. Of course, at the moment my roof angle is at 35 degrees, so it looks quite crazy. And then you have a flat roof over here. A flat roof is usually only used if you're designing a container home. Here, for example, it's always very important to have some kind of runoff area for the rain to go down, because if you have a fully flat roof, the water will of course pool at the top and there's no way for it to run off. So I'm just going to quickly switch it back to a gable roof here like that. And the next setting that you will see is the thickness. So the thickness defines the thickness of the roof like that. And it, instead of going down, it of course goes angled, because if you think about it, you have roof rafters and the thickness would be measured this way here. So at the moment this roof rafter is 150 millimeters thick. But rather than only measuring the rafter thickness, you actually include the exterior roofing thickness, any packets that you have in between, and the rafters as well. Because if you think about it, we have the max height of the tiny house and we want to make sure that it doesn't exceed the limit, so the thickness of the roof is added downwards. So let's say 150 millimeters would cover the framing, the interior lining, and the exterior cladding as well. Then we have the height offset here, which is more useful when you are working with multiple roof sections. But so let's say if we want to add an offset here by 500, it will move it down by 500 millimeters. I'll just bring it back to no offset here for now. Then you have the apex offset. So at the moment we have an angled roof that is symmetrical, but if we change the apex offset, so let's say we put in 500 millimeters like that, we can now move that apex offset or that apex off to the side. Then we have the roof angle. At the moment it is set to 35 degrees on both sides, but let's say we want to have just a 5-degree roof. You can change the settings like that, and now we have a more flat roof. One important thing to consider again as well is water runoff. So the minimum that you can go to is 3 millimeters, but it is recommended to go at least 5 millimeters and more. That way, when the tiny house sags slightly when it's set, you don't accidentally have water running in because the water is not dispersing properly. So I'm just gonna set it back to, let's say, 10 degrees here like this on both ends. And then you have the roof rotation. So this is especially useful for the apex offset as well, or if you want to have a length style gable, for example. So at the moment we have the gable facing this way, but we can actually rotate the roof, and now we have the roof, long gable roof here like this. We can rotate it to 180 degrees, which basically mirrors it, or we have it facing the other way, which is also mirroring it again. So this is useful, what I was just saying before with the apex offset. So let's say you want to move it over by a meter or something like this, and you want to actually, instead of setting it off to the right, you want to set it off to the left. We can use the opposite one, and now it basically mirrors in which way it's going to go. So I'm just going to go back to no rotation here, and now you can see the apex offset still applies, of course, still on the short end like this. And I'm just going to get rid of this apex offset here in a second. And I'm just going to add some overhangs to the roof now. So at the moment, there's no roof overhangs or no eaves, if that makes sense. And we'll just click on yes, and now we can see the overhangs of this roof pop up. So if we want to have some overhangs on each end, we can just add the overhangs one by one like this. One important thing to consider when you are designing a tiny house on wheels, you usually have width restrictions and sometimes length restrictions as well. And if you add a large overhang, you will now encroach on those width and length restrictions. So something like this wouldn't work if you are limited to only, let's say, 2.4 meter width in your road regulations. So I'm just going to go in and disable those overhangs here for now. And one thing that I wanted to show you still is the roof with multiple sections and how that works. So now we have multiple sections like this by just adding, let's say, how many sections we want. You can actually change the length of each roof section. So let's say if we want to make it one roof section is 5,000 millimeters and the other roof section becomes smaller, or we make this 5,000, then it pushes the other roof section out. So it just kind of pushes the roof around depending on where you enter the dimension. And that way you can actually start creating some very intricate designs. So let's say in the back here where we have a loft, we want to make a gable roof with only a 5-degree angle like this, and the front will be a 35 degree roof with a gable like this. And now we have an interesting design where you have a gable shape here in the living room, but now you have more space here in the loft and in the sleeping room.